Scammers target Nigeria anti-fraud move.
Good evening, welcome to Accra and welcome to the studios of GBC24 and GTV. This is when we update you on events around our world. I'm Akushika Akwe.
And I'm Conrad Kakraba, and Clement Sam is doing the sign language translation.
The 15th Conference of Commonwealth Speakers and Presiding Officers in the Africa region opened in Accra on Monday. Ghana offered to host the event after Cameroon was unable to host it. The theme for the conference is raising the confidence of the citizenry in the legislature, the role of the speaker.
It is being attended by speakers or deputy speakers of African members of the Commonwealth. Also in attendance at the opening was President John Mahama, who described the Speakers' Conference as a prelude to this year's edition of the Commonwealth Heads of State and Government meeting to be held later this month.
Now, for many journalists, especially in the developing world, the profession is a thankless one. There are many reports of media workers and journalists killed while bringing the news. Communications and media experts have cautioned that the growing trend of impunity for crimes committed against journalists, if not curtailed, will further embolden perpetrators to commit more atrocities.
As the world marks an end to impunity for crimes committed against journalists and media workers, the United Nations is calling on government and leaders to step up efforts to protect journalists.
Bring you that story later. Meanwhile, the government says the ban on thin plastics in Ghana below 20 microns is still in force.
This is contrary to media reports that the ban, which came into force yesterday, November 1st, has been suspended indefinitely. The government is therefore directing plastic manufacturers to comply with the directive agreed on 3 months ago.
Government has not suspended the directive regarding the use of oxo-biodegradable in the manufacturing of flexible plastics in the country.
In July this year, a stakeholder meeting chaired by the Environment Minister, Mr. Mahama Yariga, reached an agreement on the best measure to deal with the plastic pollution in the country. First, plastics manufacturers must stop the production of flexible or thin plastics below 20 microns, whilst the second measure was for manufacturers to add oxo-biodegradable additives to their production. However, along the line, the Ghana Plastic Manufacturers Association petitioned the ministry to scrap the issue of the micronage percentage. They argued that once the biodegradable additive is used for the production, the plastics will automatically decompose irrespective of its microns level. The Public Relations Officer of the Ministry of Science and Technology, Alhaji Musa Zakaria, acknowledged receiving such a petition but said his ministry has not taken a decision yet.
The ministry is saying that your petition has been received and is receiving technical consideration. Whatever the outcome of the study, we'll come back to the table and see how best to address the issue, because these decisions were not taken by the ministry alone. It was a collective decision.
The ministry says an Environmental Protection Agency task force will begin its monitoring soon to check whether manufacturers are adhering to the directive or not.
If Environmental Protection Agency goes round to monitor and they find out that they are not complying with the directive or they are not using oxo-biodegradable, whatever sanction there are will be applied. I repeat, the directive regarding the use of oxo-biodegradable additive to the production of flexible plastics in the country is in force.
We now take you back to our earlier story, where the world is marking an end to impunity for crimes committed against journalists and media workers. The United Nations is therefore calling on government and leaders to step up efforts to protect journalists. A report by Sarah Ofori.
There has been a growing number of crimes against journalists around the world, with more reporters being killed or imprisoned, while perpetrators continue to enjoy full impunity. Although Ghana is touted as a hub for press freedom, it has in recent times seen a growing trend of crimes and attacks meted out to journalists and media workers, but perpetrators go scot-free and punished.
A lot of our colleagues have lost their lives as a result of impunity. And it also means that the state machinery is not protecting journalists as much as it should.
Sometimes journalists are physically attacked, and we've seen that. Sometimes they are verbally abused, sometimes their equipment is damaged.
So if journalists are being attacked every now and then, I think the needed information that we need to transform this society of ours will not be there.
That is why the Media Commission, for me, are not doing enough. Because if you allow political leaders to set up radio stations or print media houses, you must also come up with the parameters of the kind of treatment. I'm talking about wages and the welfare systems that they should give us.
Does the role of the employer matter in ensuring justice and safety of journalists?
Journalists in this country tend to be a little bit powerless. Their power comes from the collective, and the collective can come from the individual media organization with all the clout that comes with authority, connections, money to protect their journalists, and it can also come from the association.
What then should be done to stop the culture of impunity for crimes perpetrated against journalists and media workers?
We have the Freedom of Information Bill, which is now before Parliament and it's been there for a while. And it seems we are dragging our feet as to when it should be passed into law. I believe strongly that if that law is passed, then people like Anas will not have to go about wearing masks.
So a policeman who attacks a journalist gets fired. A presidential staffer who attacks a journalist gets fired. An army officer who attacks a journalist gets fired. That is a strong signal to send by these institutions that they too believe in the rule of law.
On November 2nd, 2013, the world was drawn to the brutal murder of 2 French journalists in Mali, and since then, the date commemorates abuses and violence journalists go through in line of duty. As we celebrate an end to the culture of impunity for crimes meted out to journalists and media workers, the United Nations is calling on leaders and governments to step up their game in protecting journalists in the course of their duties. Sarah Fori, GBC24, Accra.
The Driver and Vehicle Licensing Authority says clients who applied last year to replace their licenses as well as new applicants may now visit any DVLA regional office to collect their driver's license. The cards from the National Print Farm were delivered to the regions over the weekend for onward issuance to clients. And according to the Greater Accra Regional Manager of the DVLA, Mr. Noah Tete Mate, the delay was due to some technical hurdles experienced since last year.
Since June last year, DVLA clients who applied to replace their licenses as well as new applicants were disappointed because they were unable to get their permanent driver's license cards. For months, they had to use temporary DVLA cards. The DVLA Greater Accra Regional Manager, Mr. Noah Tete Mate, said during the period, some clients were very understanding, while others were understandably upset over the year-long delay. He explained the reason for this.
Unfortunately, we could not print their licenses for them. Well, it was due to a hitch at our printing section. Fortunately, the chief executive and then the board of directors intervened, and fortunately, all the licenses have been printed.
Mr. Mate said the Greater Accra Regional Office of the DVLA received a total of 18,555 driver's license cards on Sunday. Since then, personnel at the DVLA have sorted out the cards and arranged them in alphabetical order. This, Mr. Mate said, will speed up the process of issuing and prevent unnecessary queues.
Their worries are over. So they should report at the various DVLA stations for their licenses. In fact, we have had the first batch, and by the close of this week, the second batch, which is the final batch, will arrive. And then anybody who has come to the DVLA and is currently holding a temporary license will get his or her license.
The DVLA says clients in the Greater Accra region can pick up their licenses at Block E of the DVLA Regional Office.
We're taking you now to Brong-Ahafo, where the Inter-Ministerial Committee on Migration has organized a training program in Sunyani on Ghana's migration policy. Brong-Ahafo is the biggest recipient of Ghanaian deportees from foreign lands. Participants from Brong-Ahafo, Ashanti and Western regions benefited from the program, which had support from the Center for Migration Studies, the International Organization for Migration and the German Technical Corporation, GTZ.
Migration has always been part of human existence, with people crisscrossing the world in search of greener pastures. Migration has its good side and the bad side as well. In recent times, an increasing number of Ghanaians are involved in irregular migration, with many passing through North Africa to Europe. Some of the travelers die in the course of such perilous journeys, while others get stranded after being duped of their monies. Ghana has consequently put together an inter-ministerial committee on migration and has, with the support of the Center for Migration Studies, the International Organization for Migration and the German Technical Corporation GIZ, formulated one of Africa's first migration policies, aiming to harness the benefits of migration. The Sunyani workshop was the last in a series. It is aimed at sensitizing various stakeholders about the policy to facilitate its implementation. Opening the workshop, the Deputy Minister for the Interior, Mr. James Agalga, said it is the hope of government that the policy would improve the conduct of migration, which has a link to development.
The policy has a clearly stated vision, mission, goals, strategic indicators, and action plans that include indicator outputs, human and financial resource requirements, and timelines.
The Brong-Ahafo Regional Minister, Mr. Eric Opoku, described irregular migration as an albatross across the neck of his region. He said mostly people from poverty-stricken farming backgrounds in the region embark on such adventures. He said over 5,000 migrants have lost their lives around the world, with just over 2,000 losing their lives between January and May this year. He also added that while there are no proper statistics on Ghanaians involved, he is aware that people from the Brong-Ahafo region and Ghana in general continue to risk their lives, employing irregular means to seek the so-called greener pastures in Europe and elsewhere. He therefore called for continued discourse on the matter to reduce irregular migration to the barest minimum. The Director of Monitoring and Evaluation at the Ministry of the Interior, Mr. Samuel Amankwa, said the policy is not designed to stop migration, but rather make use of its positive aspects. He said the sensitization was carried out to get all stakeholders acquainted with its provision to facilitate its implementation.
It's been 3 years into the United Nations Population Country Programme 6. This is to ensure that women and adolescents have access to sexual and reproductive health care in the country. At a meeting in Accra, the UNFPA met its implementation partners to share their achievements, good practices, as well as challenges of the program so far.
The United Nations Population Fund's Country Programme 6 is designed within the UNFPA mandate of making a significant impact on improving sexual and reproductive health and rights. It is also to help reduce maternal mortality in Ghana. Ghana's inability to achieve Goal 5 of the Millennium Development Goals, which expire in December, makes the program vital, since its focus is also on improving maternal and reproductive health of women and adolescents. Currently, the program is being implemented in 7 regions and 7 district assemblies in the 3 regions of the north. Under the program, women and adolescents discuss sexual and reproductive health and are also given skills training to make them economically independent. The CP6 Partners Learning Forum, the first to be organized by the UNFPA since the program started 4 years ago, provided a platform for the UNFPA and its partners to share experiences and also charts the way forward to ensure that every pregnancy is wanted, every birth is safe, and every young person's potential is fulfilled. The UNFPA representative in Ghana, Mr. Babatunde Ahonsi, said so far the CP6 has been fairly successful because many women now have power over their reproductive health. He also explained why some regions and districts were selected for the program.
All the districts we are working in are in the north, and that is because the indicators, the health indicators, the human development indicators are much worse up north than in the rest of the country.
The Planned Parenthood Association of Ghana is a program implementation partner. Its zonal manager, Nana Ama Ofoyiwa Sam, said apart from educating women and adolescents about their reproductive health, PPAG also equips them with entrepreneurial skills.
The National Democratic Congress (NDC) has postponed its primaries slated for November the 7th to November the 21st, 2015. This was disclosed after a crunch meeting of the National Executive of the party in Accra. The General Secretary Johnson Esiedu Nketia said this was necessitated by the workload on the party. He said the election was to go on as scheduled, but other equally important issues had to be met and therefore are unable to meet the 7th November date.
Activities leading to the party's primaries have not been entirely smooth, as some parliamentary aspirants who were disqualified are still contesting their disqualification. Some members of the party have also complained about the party's biometric voters register, alleging that the register in some constituencies contains names of non-NDC members. After an emergency meeting with the national executives of the party, General Secretary Johnson Esiedu Nketia explained the reasons for the postponement. He cited challenges with vetting, printing of ballots and other preparations that needed to be addressed before the start of the primaries.
We are almost through with all our vetting and matters arising out of the vetting. The register is on the field for exhibition. We are left with the printing of our ballots by the Electoral Commission, the exhibition of election notices indicating the number of people who have been cleared to contest in each constituency. We've done a computation about the time that is required, and we have come to the conclusion that the election can be held on the 21st of November 2015.
He denied claims that the party has rescheduled the primaries due to an upcoming festival in the Volta region and challenges with the party's biometric register.
We cannot, as a political party, shift a national elections of the party on the basis of a festival that is happening in one of our traditional areas. That was why nobody came out to respond to that rumor. Because if we want to run the party on the basis of such request, you open a Pandora box and you will not be able to deal with the outcomes.
The mortal remains of the late former Ashanti regional chairman of the Convention People's Party, Evangelist Samuel Kwabena Danso, was laid to rest at his hometown, Kokofuabuosu, near Asante Bekwai.
The late Evangelist Danso was also the special aide to General Champong, a former head of state. He was described as a true Christian and a politician who used his knowledge and skills to promote unity and brotherliness among Christians and politicians. At a pre-burial service at the Wesley Cathedral in Kumasi, the immediate past presiding bishop of the Methodist Church Ghana, Most Reverend Professor Emmanuel Asante, was not happy that the country is polarized on party lines and ideologies such that the nation is held to ransom whenever the nation is about to elect leaders. He said Evangelist Danso, as a unifier, succeeded to unite political factions within the church and the Ashanti region.
If this were to be the last story in our lives, then I would say there is so much injustice in our system, and God will be declared unjust. In the country where we live, truth, one who stands for the truth, suffers.
In a tribute, the CPP described Mr. Danso as a true comrade who served the CPP government in several capacities as the Ashanti Regional Secretary, Vice Chairman of the then Kumasi City Council, and later Regional Manager of the Ghana Tourist Board. His wife, Mrs. Dorothy Danso, the National President of Aglo International's tribute, was read by Mrs. Gifty Afenyi Dazi, a leading member of Aglo International. There were other tributes from the Wesley Cathedral and the Kumasi Circuit of the Methodist Church, the children and the connectional lay movement of the Methodist Church Ghana. The government delegation at the funeral was led by the Chief of Staff, Mr. Julius Debra.
We'll be back with more news.
A very good evening. It's Monday. Let's get updates from the world of business. My name is Morris Ogbete. Now, the Director General of the West African Monetary Institute, Dr. Abuaku Nglama, is optimistic that the West African sub-region will have a single currency by 2020, the new takeoff date. Although the region has postponed the implementation date on several occasions, Mr. Nglama believes new strategies put in place by member states will ensure a successful implementation of the single currency.
The idea of a single currency for the West African sub-region was mooted in 1983 to achieve a harmonized monetary system. Over the years, implementation dates for the program have been shifted many times due to the inability of member states to meet the convergence criteria and the lack of political will from government. Skeptics are of the view that with the countless postponements and the current Greek debt crisis that affected the entire euro area, a single currency will forever remain an idea and stay on the shelves. Speaking at the 6th West African International Governance and Leadership Conference at Lomé, Togo, the Director General of the West African Monetary Institute, Mr. Abuaku Nglama, said a single currency for West Africa will come to fruition by 2020 as planned.
One key component of the roadmap is the establishment of ECOWAS Monetary Institute, EMI, by January 2018. The EMI is to create the necessary conditions for a smooth transition to the new ECOWAS-wide single currency by January 1, 2020.
The editor-in-chief of the West African International magazine, Dr. De Otibu Asari, called on non-governmental organizations to join the struggle for economic integration of the sub-region. The West African International Governance and Leadership Institute presented awards to individuals and companies that have distinguished themselves in their fields and in their own small way contributed to economic integration in West Africa. One of Ghana's top estate developers, Nana Odeneho Chamantin, was a recipient of the award.
The Deputy Minister for Trade and Industry, Mr. Kweku Rikitegan, says the perception that anything from Ghana is inferior is affecting Ghanaian product on the international market. He said Ghanaian manufacturers must reverse this perception by improving on packaging of their product to attract the public.
The Made in Ghana Awards Hall of Fame process is basically the induction of celebrated Ghanaian-owned products and services and industries which have exhibited excellence in premium quality and standards over several years. It is also to create a platform for Ghanaian consumers to patronize made in Ghana products and services and also encourage them to make significant improvement in service quality. Awards were given to companies who excelled in the year under review 2014. The overall best product of the year went to latest foam rubber product. The best spa health service of the year was received by Holy Trinity Spa and Health Services. The best industrialist of the year 2014 was given to Mr. Ashok Mohinani of the Mohinani Group of Companies. The Deputy Minister for Trade and Industry, Mr. Kweko Rickett-Hagan, said the country's inability to turn raw materials into finished product is a problem.
We believe the time has come for the patronage of made in Ghana goods and services as a potent tool for the development of our national economy. Ghanaian products are, as a result, losing their legitimate share of the market in our country. This is silent but ongoing decapitating development must be challenged and possibly reversed.
The Chief Executive of the Ghana Investment Promotion Center, Mrs. Marina Treba, said the GIPC has opened its doors for investors who want to improve on their product.
We want to make it clear, particularly on this day, that the Ghana Investment Promotion Center's doors are open to all investors and entrepreneurs who seek to benefit from the investment incentives spelled out in the GIPC Act 865. We've expanded our red carpet services to continue to serve with the highest quality and standards.
GBC24 spoke to some of the award winners.
It's a credit to our company, and we say thank you to our loyal and dedicated customers for being sincere with us and to showcase what we have done.
It means a lot for me, and in respect of how Ghana is growing, to appreciate the direction of healthcare delivery globally.
We are very happy to have received this award, and we thank Almighty God for it. And secondly, too, we dedicate this award on behalf of management and staff to our cherished customers.
Well, winning this award of Industrial of the Year is certainly very humbling amongst so many captains of industries. I think there were many more contenders, but the fact that, it came to me, I am truly humbled and thankful for the people who presented this to me.
The assessment criteria for the selection of the awards was based on 4 parameters that demonstrate the overall product, service quality, delivery, competitiveness, and innovation.
Still in business, administrators and management consultants have been reminded to maintain high standards of professionalism in their course of duty. This is to ensure that public and private institutions are run in accordance with existing rules and regulations.
The Chartered Institute of Administrators and Management Consultants Ghana, formerly the Chartered Institute of Administration Ghana, was established and licensed in 1973 to promote excellence in the practice of professional administration and management consultancy by examining, chartering and regulating its members. It also aims at promoting and furthering the course of high standards of professionalism in the practice of administration and management consultancy through lifelong learning. The Chief Executive and the Registrar of the Institute, Mr. Samuel Mausi Asafo, said members who behave unprofessionally would be disciplined.
Thus, as a professional body registered by law and controlled by a representative board, a practitioner found guilty by the Board of Misconduct may be suspended from practice or completely debarred by the removal of his or her name from the register.
The guest speaker for the ceremony, Mrs. Janet Fofie, talked about the role of professional administrators in maintaining high standards of the workplace.
Professionalism at the workplace is arguably a sure way to increasing the productivity of any organization and the nation as a whole. If indeed we are to move forward in the direction that we all would like, it's critical that the professionals amongst us indeed do what it takes to get us there.
Some of the graduates spoke to GBC24.
Education is the most profitable investment for every society, especially the one we have gained from this institute.
The contributions that we've made towards Mother Ghana, although we are all administrators, it's most delighted that people recognize what you do, and that inspires you to do more.
In all, the 49 graduates received awards and certificates. 21 out of the 49 were given license and 7 were inducted into honorary fellowship of the institute.
And that'll do for business, brought to you by EcoBank, Airtel and Hisense.
Now some health news brought to you by FPAC. FPAC blows your pain away. The well-known adage, prevention is better than cure, was at the heart of most breast cancer campaigns in Ghana as the world marked the Breast Cancer Awareness Month in October. To step up the standard of breast care and the treatment of breast cancer in the country, the Volta River Authority Hospital has launched a breast cancer center offering a better approach to treat breast cancer as well as preventive services to the local people.
Cancer is the leading cause of death from cancer for women in many parts of the world and is the most common cancer in women in Ghana. However, it lends itself to early detection and subsequently early treatment. Unfortunately for the rural woman, access to early treatment of breast cancer is a challenge since most cases are referred to hospitals in the cities. Women who find themselves in this situation often see referral cases as an inconvenience and therefore may not pursue treatment. And given all the efforts at awareness, prevention and control of breast cancer, patients still report to health facilities at the late stage. The Volta River Authority Hospital has therefore launched a breast cancer center to boost the human resource and diagnostic capacity to manage breast cancer in Akonsombo and its neighboring communities.
The VRA Hospital has an enviable reputation in terms of healthcare within the country, and therefore it comes as no surprise to me that Motec decided to partner with them in this venture of a PPP, which seems to be growing from strength to strength.
According to the medical director of the Vinyari Hospital in Akonsombo, Dr. Rebecca Kwa Ahen, the center will reduce the long waiting time for breast cancer treatment and the mortality rate of patients.
We also want to add reconstructive surgery. Those who have lost their breast through mastectomy, removal of the breast because of the cancer, we will offer them reconstruction such that they will have a full chest after the surgery.
In Ghana, 70% of women who are diagnosed with breast cancer die, so health experts are entreating all Ghanaians to be mindful of unhealthy lifestyles and inculcate the habit of regular self-breast examination.
5-year-old Abigail Jan from Sunya in the Bunahava region urgently needs 56,550 cedis for a life-saving surgery. Abigail has been diagnosed of Port's disease or Port's deformity, which has affected her spinal cord. And for this reason, Abigail can neither walk at a normal pace nor pass urine normally.
Port's disease or Port's deformity, also known as tuberculosis of the spine, is both the most common and dangerous form of TB infections. Experts say any delay in diagnosing and managing the infection can cause spinal cord compression and spinal deformity. A medical examination on little Abigail Jan indicates that her diagnosis was late, hence her current condition. After visiting various medical centers unsuccessfully, Abigail's mother, Madam Abunai Chan, tells GBC24 that her daughter's inability to perform normal daily functions dates back to when she was born. The amount needed for the surgery, according to her, is overwhelming, and for this reason, she's appealing to all, especially benevolent individuals and corporate organizations, to help her daughter live a normal life.
Adwumayefo ahemfo nyinara empo president kratia mesre no onso mimu na mni boafo bia.
The amount needed for the life-saving surgery will cover professional fees and other hospital charges, including x-rays, physiotherapy and laboratory services. Donations could be made to account number 70112200000117 Ankamo Fosu D, CITF Abigail Jan, GCB Sunyai branch, or contact Abna HR on 020 757 1239.
And we do appreciate your time.
Have a good evening.